Howdy folks, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm showing you how I make these walking sticks. If you know me, you'll know that I've made one before for John. Well, I made one from a stick that I found and that shattered, and then I revamped one of his old ones, and so far so good. So it's been about a year actually since I made that one, but I've been working on these ones, and this one I've got to a state where it's pretty smooth and I've got an end cap for it, and I just wanted to show you guys how I do that. So step one, and I've already done most of this, but step one is find a stick in the forest that you like, whack it against a tree or two, and make sure that it's sturdy. Like this one, I'm going to be selling this one. This one can hold my entire weight. I mean, yeah, I just put my entire weight onto this stick straight up and down, so it's very strong in compression. And if I just go ahead and, just whack it against the chair and the ground, and see, still in one piece, and very strong, momentary, like you can whack things with this. This is a whacking stick. No, don't use it as a whacking stick, that was a joke. Not liable for any damages that you do or may not cause with the sticks that I make. Anyways, you get a stick, you test it, make sure that it's strong, and then you remove all the bark. Now I use a little folding pocket knife for that, but you can use fixed blade knife, switch blade, gravity blade, whatever kind of blade you want. I use this one. It's pretty cool. I got it at a Boy Scout camp, Camp Shenandoah. It gets stuck every now and again, and I have to kind of do that to get it to close. But, other than that, it served me pretty well. I had it for about 2 years, and it works. I mean, there's not much to say about it. It's a blade, it works, and it folds, Good for carrying with you anywhere that you are allowed to have a blade. But yeah, so you remove all the bark, and then you sand it a little, and then you see you've got these red bits. Well, this next part is personal choice, personal preference. I like to have just a little bit, but not too much. So if I'm wanting to remove these, what I'll do is I'll get my blade, and I use my thumb for extra control while having the same amount of strength. But I press my thumb to the back of the blade, and I just gently press and remove tiny little bits of wood at a time, making sure to keep a firm grip on both the blade and the piece that I'm working on. So remove little itty bitty bits, and we'll create little divots in the wood, but you're gonna sand these out later, or you can leave them. But yeah, so that just, see, little like divots, and you do that, and then when you're happy with it, you do a bit more sanding, and you can seal it. I'm not quite there yet because this piece has a lot of knots in it, and I don't want any of these knots, or at least I want to get rid of as many as I can. And there's a few different ways you can do this. You can try and use your blade or a slightly bigger blade to get rid of these, like, hack away and chip away at them, or you can sand them smooth. Some people have automatic sanders, you know, sanding machines, but I don't have one. I don't have those. So I sand these by hand, and you know, it gets the job done, but it's time consuming. So the method that I use to get rid of these knots is just chip away at them by hand. You're using 2 thumbs on the back of the blade, a little flat part, not the edge. Don't cut yourself, and just make little chips at it. Now, I've been doing this for an hour or two today already, and you can see, or not an hour, sorry, that's an exaggeration, about 10-20 minutes I decided to make this recording. But you saw that's makes a lot of wood chips. So wherever you're doing this, you're going to want to make sure that there's an easy way to clean up. Either you're in your garage and you open the door and you sweep it all out into, I don't know, gravel or grass, whatever you have in front of your garage, and that'll do the job just fine. That's what I do. Or maybe you have a shop vac and you can, you know, get rid of the chips by vacuuming it up. Well, whatever you have, that's how you're gonna clean it up, or however you feel like cleaning it up, depending on what you have. So I'm just gonna chip away at these, and it's not gonna be perfect. And every so often you're gonna wanna switch the orientation that you're carving at. Of course, never cut too much towards yourself, because in case the blade slips, then you don't want to have, I don't know, your arm or your leg in the way. And I mean, if it slips and it goes into you somewhere that could be devastating, could cause a lot of damage. So don't do that. I'd like to point out that I am not a professional at this, so of course I'm just telling you what I've found works so far, and I've not done this for too long. So if anybody has any advice for me, I'd be more than willing to listen and more than happy to hear it. And so some of these knots will take a while to get out, but anything is possible with patience and effort. If you have a task that needs to be done, you have the time to do it, and by God, you can do that task. Even if you don't have the right tools. I'm sure there's another tool that you could use to get rid of these, smooth it out, but if there is, I'm not aware of it. And of course, after you've got this to a point where you're ready to seal it, you could, before or after sealing it, add little, markings, either by burning or carving. And there's a multitude of tools that you could use for that. For burning, there's little wood burner kits, machines that you can use. You could probably use a TIG welder if you had to. And, I mean, you could even just heat up a nail and put it through the wood, which would work. It would work. It would be slow and probably expensive, because you'd use whatever method you're using to heat the nail would probably have to be used a lot. Propane, or maybe you have an induction coil heating mechanism. I know if I had to use a nail, I'd ideally have a induction setup. Basically, you have a coil of copper wire and you pass a lot of electricity through it, and that'll heat up the copper, and if you put something inside the coil, then it'll also heat that up too, a lot. I've seen it done a few times, never done it myself, but you know, those machines, they're pretty cool, I think. They're not too large either. From what I've seen, they're about yay long, yay tall, yay wide. You know, not too big, and certainly something that could be handy to have, just in case you might need it someday. But you know, the use case for those is limited, but they are cool. So, you know. So what I'm doing is just cleaning it up a little. A few spots that I missed on my first pass with first, second, and third pass, actually, with cleaning it up. As I already mentioned, I'm going to be selling this one, so I want it to be as nice as possible once it's ready for market. So, showing you a bit with the knife, now I'm going to move to trying to sand these smooth. And you could use a few different things for this. I have a little sanding assistant here that will help me with, you know, getting a nice flat sanding. It's not the greatest with these sticks because they're, of course, curved a lot, and so you really want to take it kind of like aggressively, I think, just aggressively sand it, like press in and move it back and forth, but turn the piece very slowly so that you get a nice even sanding, but slowly but at a consistent speed is what I'm trying to say. So you can see with just a few seconds of sanding, that's a lot of dust. It's a lot of sawdust this is going to put off, and that's why I don't really use it a whole ton, is because, hey, very dusty. Very dusty means more effort to clean up, but keep the workspace clean and nice, and you'll have a heck of a lot of better time finding stuff and working on stuff than if your workspace was messy and dirty and stuff, you know. So ever so often I just gotta knock the dust off so that this thing will be, you know, usable. I can sand it more when there's no dust on it, clogging up the sandpaper. Because yes, sandpaper can get clogged if you didn't know. Just centering it here. And yeah. So there, I've just taken maybe a minute to sand this. felt like a minute. Sanding is one of those things that really feels like a lot longer than it is usually. You can see it's a bit smoother than it was. These little ridges for the knots in the wood. If you're watching this and you don't know what a knot in wood is, that's basically where if you have like a branch, smaller branches can come out of that main branch, and that's where a knot is where a thing splits. Usually it's where it splits, like you have the main branch and you have smaller branches kind of coming off it like this. You know, like it's a T. Looks like a T when you lay it out. I really should be using different sandpaper, but this is my last sheet of 60 grit. And I usually start with 60 grit and work my way up to, I think it's 150 grit. See, I have 60, 100, what is this, 120, 150, yeah, 60, 100, 150. Bit of a jump there in that last bit, but that's just the little mix that I buy. It's 3M general purpose sandpaper, assorted grits. I also went to this hardware store the other day and got 60, 100, 150, and 220 grit sandpaper. It's just large sheet. Be seeing if this is viable really quick. This is Ace Hardware brand. With this you get, what was it, 5 sheets of 4 different grits. So that's 160, 100, 150, and 2 220s for the grits. These different sandpaper sheets. So these sheets, I'm guessing that you can cut these up to fit in this thing if you really wanted to, and you know, I might do that because look, here's a fresh sheet next to the sheet that I've been using for a little while. You can see this one is a lot more clogged up. Still usable. I could probably get a lot more mileage out of it, but I prefer to work with fresh tools. Maybe that's a bit wasteful of me, but you know what? It brings results, doesn't it? So, I'm gonna have a thing to cut this on. Just gonna use the empty sheet. Now what I'm about to do is probably dangerous and very stupid. Just like with most things that I do. But it'll probably work. What I'm gonna do is just cut this. This is probably destroying the blade on the knife. But it's working, so at least I think it's working. I hope it's working. Did it work? Nope, that did not do a thing. Lovely. Great, my plan failed. Wonderful, fantastic, I love it. So what I'm gonna do instead is fold it. If I can. Alright, so there's the fold. Now, I'm gonna cut along the crease. Really, I need to resharpen my blade, but sharpening stones take forever, and I do not have the patience for them. All right. Perfect. All right, so you got a fresh sheet of 60 grit sandpaper. You can put into here, like, you know what? No. I'm actually gonna try something else. I'm gonna try this under leg, like so, and there you go. So what I'm doing is I have the stick going over my knee and then under my other knee. I have my arm over here putting tension on it, so pressure on this side, so it's kind of like a seesaw, you know. That's the name of it. And I'm just using the sandpaper to hopefully smooth out these knots a lot faster. Then that's how it's going to be. So dusty. Dusty. You know what? gonna use, this is probably a bad idea, as with most of my ideas, but I'm gonna use this can of polyacrylic protective film and wrap the sandpaper around it. No, that's not. Well, if I go with the grain. You can sort of hear the liquid in there sort of sloshing around every so often. It's kind of funny. So it makes these really comical noises, like, you know, the classic water. Ow! Splinter. Yay. Anyways, you know the classic water drop noise? Yeah, it makes that sort of sound. Like what you might hear in a cartoon. And I think that's kind of comical. But anyways. This isn't gonna work. You know what? I've changed my mind. I'm gonna leave these little knots in as they are sort of smoothed off. And this is way below where the handle's gonna be anyhow. The handle's gonna be up here. So I'm gonna leave these, and yeah. So if you're like me, you find sticks and they have these little divots in them that are really ugly, and you need a way to sort of fill them in and cover them up. Well, what I got when I went to the hardware store, I have no idea if this is gonna work, but I got two different things. I got wood glue. I couldn't really find any proper filler. Then again, I didn't actually look around that much for filler. But I got wood glue and epoxy. And a little brush to brush the epoxy around. This was a cheap little brush, $1. The epoxy was like $8, and the glue was, I think it was also $8. But this glue, this is like an interior exterior wood glue, so it's water resistant, so you know it'll do a good job at interior and exterior work, because that's what it's meant for, as the bottle says. Let's see, how do I open this? I'm supposed to be a professional. Stop making me look bad. Pull to open. Okay. Oh, awesome. So let's see. It's right here. Now let's see if this works. This is supposed to be fast set time. So, I mean, if you had like a bit of wood that you needed to, that you could stick in here, then that would be perfect. But I don't have that, so I'm gonna sort of fill this in with wood glue. And this may be a very inefficient way to do it, but oh well. It's the way that I'm using, and if you have any comments, there's a comment section down below. You can go ahead and comment in there, and I will do my best to ignore it. I'm kidding. I'll read the comments and take into account any feedback that y'all have. I just want to say real quick, if any of you are still actually genuinely watching right now and you're interested in what I'm doing, thank you. I appreciate it. So I've just got the wood glue in there. I can see sort of runny. Sure it'll be fine. Anyways, I probably should have brought paper towels. It's fine. So let's see, how long is the set time on this? I'm just gonna close it for now. Clamp for a minimum of 30 minutes. Do not stress joints for 24 hours. Remove excess glue with a clean, damp cloth. Well, I have a cloth, but it is neither clean nor damp. So, I'm gonna remove excess glue. Don't know if I should be getting this on my hands or not. Rather, it's safe to get on your hands, rather. It feels kind of like Elmer's. Elmer's wood glue. You know, that's probably a thing. I mean, it's craft glue, you know, so it's good. Well, anyways, it's all for the immediate present. So I'm gonna let this sit, and I'll come back to you in another video, I guess.